So welcome, listeners. Thanks for joining as always. I appreciate you listening and hopefully bring you massive value. And I'm really looking forward to this podcast today. I have a great guest with me today, Richard Walsh. He's a CEO of Sharpen the Spear Coaching, which is a cool name. He's a 30-year seasoned entrepreneur. So I'm really fortunate to have him on to help share his wisdom on his journey as an entrepreneur, and now I'm helping successful business owners and entrepreneurs take their businesses to the next level. He's a best-selling author, father of 6, which I have a strong connection to. I don't have 6, but 2 is enough. U.S. champion boxer. I don't know. There's so many accolades to share, but Richard, thanks for joining me today, and I appreciate your time.
All right, Tom, it's great to be here. Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack here with your journey. It's seems like 30 years. It probably may be hard to imagine, but tell our listeners to get things started. Like, where did everything start with you and your own entrepreneurial journey? Like, how did it start?
Yeah, so I was in the Marine Corps. I got out of the Marine Corps, did 4 years in the Marine Corps, got out and had to get a job. So I figured, I shot down jets for a living in the Marine Corps. So I couldn't find any of those in the classifieds, to get a job. They didn't have any need for me. So I decided that, here, I'll throw this pickaxe and I'll dig trench for $5 an hour. I guess that's the next best thing. I don't know which one was worse, actually, but I did that, and I was working and just down in Tucson, Arizona, digging in that. And then a guy came out one day and he said, "Hey, I got a side job for you. Would you be interested?" I'm always looking for side work because I was making a ton of money. And he had about 35 tons of this crushed granite. He wanted me to shovel into a wheelbarrow from the street, take it to his backyard, spread it. Right. I said, "Yeah, I'll do that for you. No problem. I swing a pick all day. I can work." So I spent my last $85 before payday for a wheelbarrow and a shovel. And I showed up on Saturday and I knocked this out. It took me about 10 hours. I knocked it out, got it done. And here's the best part. He came out and he put $1,000 in my hands. Okay. And I'm looking at $1,000 going, dang, I did this yesterday for $40. I'm like, I think I know my future. I am going to work for myself. I'm going to be a landscaper. Okay. Because I grew up in the golf business anyway. So I wasn't afraid to work, obviously. But that really launched my entrepreneurial journey. I realized that just that money, I got to keep all that. Yeah. It cost me $85 and 10 hours on a Saturday for $1,000. All of us can do that math. Okay. That's a good gig. I like those margins, obviously this is me showing up doing that, but I said, and I did it again and I did it again. And then all of a sudden people want me and I'm like, I'm going to do this. So that turned into custom water features. So I ended up moving from just doing the landscape stuff into boulders, rocks, waterfalls, this is 88, 89, started turning into that. It was kind of new. There wasn't a lot of people doing it. People loved it, but no one was doing it. So I did that. I scaled that, or I started to grow it, moved back to Chicago. Okay. So I'm like, there's a better market in Chicago for this. Cause I'll say I'm a high-end guy. I like to do high-end amazing things. I don't want to just shovel gravel. It's good for money, but I didn't want to do that. Obviously I get other people to do it, but I really wanted to create. So I said, Arizona wasn't quite the high-end market, a lot of fixed income and stuff like that, retiree stuff. So I'm like, so I moved back, packed it all up, started over doing that and grew that over about 20 years. And I became best in the nation, started doing custom steel sculpture. Started doing steel sculpture, add water to it. All of a sudden I'm doing world-class exhibits, and I'm an internationally recognized steel sculptor. And that was really great. And things are just humming along. I get married. Now we have 6 full children, 4 years and younger. 08 hits. Things are looking so good now. All of a sudden the economy's got the big flip. November 5th of 2008, day after the election, I lost $500,000 in one day. And that was the beginning of the cliff. Okay. Because everyone, if you were around then, no one was spending money. Everything was collapsing. People were losing their homes, and they certainly didn't need a water feature. Okay. I wasn't on the must-have list. They could wait, and they did. So basically I lost my business, lost my home, all the stuff I was doing really well, and then it all kind of went off the cliff. Had to make decisions. So I ended up shutting down the business. And here's why. I'll just say this real quick, Tom. So I had driven very hard for 20 years building this business. Okay. Done everything. I'm I'm on TV. I'm in magazines. I'm winning awards everywhere. I'm on big committees for the city of Chicago. I'm doing all this great stuff, right? Again, world-class exhibits. It's all about that. It's all about winning, being number one, being seen. And when you get into that mode, you tend to forget about everything else in life, like your family and friends and everything else. It's kind of that drive. So I had woke up one day and had this epiphany. I was like, you know what? I'm thinking about my 6 little kids. They love me. They run to see me when I come home. Even though I get home late, they just wanted to be there. One of my sons was chasing my truck down the driveway crying. He's like 4 years old, and because I'm leaving, and I just kept going. And I'm like, if I keep going like this, business first, hits everything, win this, do this, get the next thing. I said, my children are going to grow up because more is caught than taught. And they might be okay at business, but I'm going to actually ruin their relationships. They're going to have broken marriages. They're going to go off the path really fast because of what they saw me do. Not what I told them to do, but what they saw me do. So I honestly got out of bed, got dressed, went in the office and said, we're done today. Shutting this down. And I closed it. What's my yard? So my guys who had been with me over 10 years, guys were awesome. And I told them, we got to wrap it up. That's it. This week, it's it. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm not going to do this anymore. I had really become my business. It was all about me. So my whole identity was wrapped up in that. So that epiphany was really good. I didn't have the epiphany of what to do next. It's kind of like, well, I better just figure something out. So we did have to relocate. We moved to Wisconsin from Illinois and I started over. Didn't know what I want to do. And I had to get that figured out, right? Started training people. And I ended up opening a gym. I had a construction business, so I scaled a couple more businesses. People started asking me how I did it. And I'm like, well, I did, what are you doing? So they asked me what I'm doing. So I started helping them in kind of a mentor position. Then I decided to write a book and I wrote Escape the Owner Prison because I realized that people were kind of trapped in the same pattern that I was, wearing all the hats, doing all the work. They never really got out of that. They work hard the first 2 years, but the next thing you know, 10 years goes by, they've repeated the first 2 5 times. Right? That's the owner prison. You're making a little more money. You feel like you're in charge. Okay. But your business owns you. Okay. You don't get to go on long vacations. You don't get the extra time with the family. You're not even seeing your kids' games, the music recitals, because you have to work, right? You got to get the work done. You haven't learned to delegate yet, automate, eliminate. You haven't done any of that. So they're in that spot. So I started helping people get out of that like I did, because I'm like, well, I won't do that. So I had to think differently. And so the best-selling book comes out, Escape the Owner Prison. I built an academy around that, start coaching people, go through a couple iterations on that. And now we're at Sharpen the Spirit Coaching, helping a ton of people, and it's really awesome. So,
wow. Short thought in your window there, like all encapsulated. There's a lot of threads in there. I want to form just on a bit because there's so much. I mean, obviously the world of entrepreneurship can be glamorized. You see it like on Shark Tank and all these things. Like it looks and sounds so great, but the way you describe it, there's a lot of work that goes into it to really make it successful and, actually transform to not just be an employee of your own business, but like a business owner, right? Very different mindset in there. And one thing that sort of jumped out at me too is that, and I think everyone recognizes this and there might be something coming soon. And things can change very drastically, right? The economy can change, life can change, like all the success or failures can reverse very quickly. And having the resilience to kind of adapt to it and continue to move forward is a challenge. It's all a reality. So it's really interesting to hear it from your lens because I know you could talk about it this way, but I'm sure in the midst of it, there is a lot of learning and pain potentially with it, right? And stress. So anyway, let's go back to kind of maybe when you're kind of at the early stages, because there's a mindset to a lot of this. And I've seen it just even for myself personally, living most of my life as a W-2 and transitioning to thinking like a business owner. Like, what are some of the things when you're kind of starting off and sort of the light bulb hit for you, like to be the owner, right? And have an owner mindset as you kind of saw it. Like, what was that sort of experience like? And share that with the listeners because I think that's an important point.
Yeah, ownership was like, it's attractive from the outside. Looking in, you're like, wow, I want to be the owner. I want to be in charge of my schedule. I want to do what I want to do. I didn't like limits. The thing I hated about working for somebody they were always telling me how much I could make.
Mm.
Like, I'm not into that. You don't get to tell me how much I can make. You don't get to tell me what my worth is. Okay. I don't know if people think of that, but people would brag to me about, like, say, a union job. Oh, I can make $31 an hour, and this, because I'm a union. I'm like, but you can't make 32. They will let you make $32 an hour. They'll tell you what you're going to make. Are you only worth $31 an hour? Okay. I'm worth more than that. I'm going to work for myself. I'm going to set the number. I'm going to set the value. And my values increased as I got better at what I did. I remember my father once, Tom, shows up and doing this big water feature, huge thing. It was like, I don't know, just under 200,000 for a water feature in someone's backyard, right? And he's there, and I'm all proud showing my dad, look what I'm doing. And he asked me, like, how much they're paying. I tell him how much. He's like, they pay you that much? And I go, oh yeah. I go, Dad, they can't do this. I can do this. They can't do this. They can buy everything I own, right? They can write a check for it. They got that kind of money. So, but they can't create what I'm creating. They can't bring what this does when it's finished, and the tranquility and all the other experience and all that kind of stuff. They can't buy that from just anybody. That's what I do. So it was kind of, I go, you could probably do it, Dad. You build stuff, you do things. That's why you don't equate the value to it. So that was my big thing, Thomas. I really didn't want people telling me how much I can or cannot make. So that was one of the big things. Plus I learned in the Marine Corps that I don't take direction really well. Okay. I kind of was a little, that's why I only did 4 years. Can never, people say, I really want to control my destiny. Yeah. That's a big thing. Well, when people are in a regular W-2 job and you're working, which is good, and people can do really well in those. So one thing I want to clarify is you can make money everywhere. Okay. You can make a lot of money as an employee. You can make it as a business owner, as a specialist, as an investor. There's lots of ways to make money. But what we want to think about is, well, what do I actually want to do? Right? How do we fulfill something that's meaningful to us if we're going to begin a new, what we'll call it, a career? Because entrepreneurship is kind of a career. You may have different things you do, but you really want to be sure that you understand where you're going in that. Right? So I think even my shovel and gravel, that was still a side gig. Okay. So think about it. Someone gave me, okay, well, great. I got one job. That was great. I made more in one job than I made in a month almost at the other job, at my job, but I couldn't quit my job. So I kept working my job, looking for the next gravel to shovel, the next pile. Right. But that's just not sitting around. You had to go find it. So that became a side gig to develop that so I could leave the trench digging and go to that full time. Now, the good news for me was I'd only need like 2 or 3 jobs a month, and I was killing it compared to my $5 an hour job. But I had to still get that work and have it consistent. So there's a challenge in that. So when people want to go, I think when they want to go from your daily job, again, W-2, you're working for someone, to the new thing, you want to test out entrepreneurship, you want to get into that. It really is kind of the side hustle is the first step, because most people can't make a 100% commitment to quit today and start something tomorrow because of the process. Does that make sense of what they have to go through?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And to your point, like a lot of the stuff, and we've talked about this separately, is we're just not really taught a lot of these things, even though they seem, as you get into them, intuitive in some respects, but most people are not getting educated unless they're maybe, going into entrepreneurship in school in some shape, or have someone that had a business that they worked in and or within their family. Like, they're just not exposed to it. And, a lot of things are unfamiliar. So this is part of the education, is you kind of get into it and start, providing value in some shape or form elsewhere, and somebody exchanging money for it, right? And you're giving them value. Or it's that Zig Ziglar thing was, to get what you want, give value to others, right? Or something in that respect, like add more value to their lives. And you do that through your unique talent, and then you can build off of it. But there's just so much to learn to be really harness a successful business, not just like a side gig, right? Which, is a starting point.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand if you're going to go test the waters, you have an idea. So I call it being that napkin phase. You've written something down on a napkin. You have an idea. You're sitting there one night and you're, hey, I should do this. Okay, great place to start. That's where all businesses start, is the idea phase. But then you got to kind of, let's walk through the process. Like, well, now what? I have this idea, and people come to me all the time with ideas. I said, okay, it's an idea. What have you done to really flesh it out?
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like? And the first thing I tell them, they go, let me tell you who you're not going to ask, who you're not going to talk to. Okay. Friends and family. Don't ever ask your friends or family if this is a good idea. Okay. Because it's all biased.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In good and bad ways. They're going to first, so someone will say you're crazy. You're going to take all this risk. You got a really good job. You're going to do that to do this thing that you're showing them on a napkin, right? Basically. And they're going to think, well, you're nuts. Others will say, you got to do it. It'll be great. Oh, this is awesome. Yeah. Because they love you and they don't want to tell you bad things or be honest with you. Like your idea might be horrible. Like you're going to fail first time out of the chute, right? So we got to stay away from those people. And I mean this in love. Okay. They just don't have a business mindset. Okay. They have your safety and security is their concern, right? Not go be a great business person. So you have to find a different circle to check, right? Now, obviously, if you can get in entrepreneurial circles or maybe there's Facebook groups or whatever, where people are all working towards the same thing, launching a product or service or whatever it is, that's helpful. Or the complete stranger. If you happen to be talking to someone, I love to like tell them, just go show them your idea, right? And get feedback on that. Now, the best thing to do, what I do is I tell people, because that is like unnerving for people. What's the number one fear of most people is public speaking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like more than death. They'd rather die than speak. Right? We don't get it. Here we are chatting on podcasts all over the world and it's all good. But excuse me. The key is, if you're going to do that and you're afraid of that, here's the secret. If I have an idea and I want to, I'm going to bring it to you, Tom. I'm going to say, Tom, I came up with this great idea for this business or whatever, or a product. Maybe you made something really cool. You think it's going to change the world. When you go ask a stranger, say, hey, I made this. It's supposed to do this. Can you tell me why this wouldn't work? Can you poke holes in this? Can you tell me what's wrong with this thing? Don't ask about good things. Everyone's going to tell you good stuff about your product. They don't care. But if you tell me the negatives, because I tell people this, when you go research something online, you're looking at reviews. Are you going to positive reviews or negative reviews first? You don't go to the negatives. You want to go see what's wrong with this thing. You don't care. There's all these 50, 5-star reviews. What are the 3-star reviews saying? That's what you want to know. And that alone helps give you the confidence to ask someone, but it also helps you improve your product before you even get to launch. Outside eyes are going to see things you don't see. This is like your child. Okay. Like someone in your family is not going to tell you got an ugly baby. Okay. But a stranger might say, your kid's kind of ugly. Hopefully they'll grow out of it. You know what I mean? But, or they can help you. Like, man, maybe if you I don't know, combed his hair or something. I don't know. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, you got to understand, like, you got this emotional attachment to your product or service, and that clouds your vision. So you need outside eyes to come in. Again, not family or friends, outside eyes that can give you real data that you can then analyze, and they might be right, they might be wrong, or you might find an easy fix to overcome that. So really important. I think the next thing, Tom, that's really important is understand the work involved. Okay. When people are going to do the side hustle, like people will sell stuff on eBay and they'll do clothes. My daughter does clothing, and also she buys and she thrift stores to do that. Okay. She made like $1,000 and not in a day, over 6 months. Okay. That's a hobby. Okay. Kind of. Right. So what we want to understand is the work that's involved to bring something to fruition through the iterations, meaning you're going to do this or make it better, see if someone will pay you money for it. Ooh, someone paid me money for it. That's a good sign. Will more people pay you money for it? Right. There's a great saying, people overestimate what they can accomplish in 1 year, and they underestimate what they can accomplish in 5. Okay. You have to understand, like, it's a slow start. Even if it feels fast, it's slow. Okay. Because there's so many little things you have to learn. For me, Tom, it's hard a lot of times I don't work with a lot of startups because I put it this way, I go, you don't have enough scars yet. You got to go get punched in the face. You're going to get beat up. You're going to lose some money. You're going to make some mistakes, right? You're going to go in the wrong direction. That's part of the journey. Like, it's not going to take you out of the game, but you're going to have to keep adjusting and figuring out what works. Then once you've gone through that, then you may value a coach, someone who can, compress time for you, bring wisdom. I got 35 years in business. I can bring some wisdom to the table and help you speed that and miss some of those. But until you have that happen to you, you can't really appreciate it, right?
And you hit something that really certainly resonated with me, and I think folks will appreciate it too, as they're, I've kind of met a lot of folks who are successful in their own rights and their jobs, and, they've gotten a lot of accolades. And in the world we live in, rejection sucks. Right? Nobody likes to be rejected. And, we with social media, all those things that look at us and judge us, even though no one's really paying attention to you. In fact, let me state the facts, like everyone's thinking about themselves. But, you have these sort of pressures, like it's hard to put yourself out there. And to your point, like to share an idea or a thought and recognize that you likely will get rejected by somebody, right? Not unless you're asking people like to point, like you're just super friendly and they don't hurt your feelings, but you need that, right? And so with that is recognizing, which I struggled with initially, it's not personal, right? You can't take it personally. This is a process to learn, adapt, try to figure out what would be valuable for people. And you're going to probably hear some things that you won't like, but it's all fuel to learn and grow and improve what you're doing. You take it from that lens, it's helped me to take a positive aspect around those sort of rejections or get quote unquote failures that are going to occur, especially if you're trying something different, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's very true. You're going to get beat up. I've been getting beat up for 35. And I was a boxer. Like, I got half my face is artificial, right? I got 7 breaks in my nose attached to my face, plates and wires. And I know about getting beat up, so the entrepreneurial path was just natural for me. That was martial arts. I'm like, I get beat up, like in business and in the ring, I got beat up a lot, but you're going to take these punches. It doesn't matter. You get used to it. People are like, how can you even do that? I go, well, once the bell rings, you're like in the fight. Who cares?
Yeah.
No turning back, so you have to have the courage to get in the fight, to get that thing out there and start taking the hits. And that's rejection. That's negativity. You're going to get some of that. But then you're going to get the positive stuff too. And to me, the most positive thing is someone willing to pay for my product or service.
Right.
That's my greatest compliment. You paid me money for what I do. I'm now a professional. If you're paid for what you do, you're no longer an amateur. You're a professional. So you need to understand that too. You get paid. Like, I could have been a professional boxer if I just signed on the line and then got paid, right? You get $500 per fight. Now I'm a pro. Doesn't mean I'm good. It means I signed the line and I got paid. So entrepreneurship, you're getting that stuff out there. What I also like to tell guys, Tom, is when you start, there's a little saying I tell myself is, how little do I need to do to get started? Okay. Because everyone will sit there, analysis paralysis, getting ready to get ready. I got to make this better. I got to do it better. You don't have to make it better. You need to make it good, not great. And then get it out there and then work on making it great. Okay. Because if you can't sell it good, you're not going to sell it great. Okay. Like, let that sink in. If you can't sell it good, you ain't going to sell it great. Okay. Good, you can make great. No one wants it when it's good. Why would you make it great? Now you have a great thing no one wants. Okay. So you really got to, it's funny, but you got to think about that, like Otterbox, the owners of Otterbox, the phone covers and stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
They have an 80-20. They get an 80% good and they put it on the market. Then they get feedback from the clients and everyone else who buys it and they fix it. Way easier to do little tweaks, but now they get income, right? They got it in people's hands. And who's going to give you better feedback than someone who paid for it? Right? That's the feedback you want. Give it to me. Give me the negative, right? Give me the negative. Like they have that expectation of negative feedback so they can make it great. but they're paying for the good.
Mm.
You know, they're paying for the good. And these guys started in the garage. Now they have 20,000 employees. Okay. That's a business. Okay.
Right.
From side gigs to massiveness, right?
Right.
Great people, but that's how you got to think about it. You know, in this stuff, you got all these little humps and bumps you're going to hit all the time. But you have to understand each stage what this is going to look like.
Well, you know, the interesting part we live in a world where, you know, I can order something and Amazon ships it to me that same day or next day, right? There's an instant gratification that we have grown to get accustomed to. And in the world of entrepreneurship, I mean, there might be cases where that happens, but in most cases, you almost need to have a kind of a long run view of things, because it's going to take some hiccups and sort of iteration and growth over time to really build something, just like compound interest. I think of it, you know, from my financial advisor lens, it's like there's a compounding effect to what you do, and you're building, you're learning, and it grows over time. But if you can't think long term, it's going to be very difficult, right? It's you want that short term gratification. You think you're going to get it all at once, but the reality is it does take time, and you almost have to have kind of two different lenses, right? So talk a little bit about that from your lens.
I think it's really important to understand. People see, it's like you mentioned social media. People, you're always seeing the good. Okay. It's a playground of comparison. It's horrible, right? You can't get real feedback from that kind of stuff. What you're going to do whenever you see anything, it's like, oh, look how much they sold. It's just this little thing. That little thing, they probably worked on for years.
Mm.
Almost nobody has a thing a product or even a service that just blows up. Okay. I mean, like they made it yesterday and today it blows up.
Right.
So that's how you look at it, and you say, okay, it's that old saying, every overnight success only took 10 years. Right? Because people have skills. Like you don't even understand, like when you make a product, like you have ideas, you're working in your job and you're good at something, right? A lot of people are a specialist in something and they think they can do it better than the person they're working for. So they go to the job, right? So if they go and in 2 years or 3 years are really successful, say they start an accountant, they start an accounting firm, and also they're doing really well, right? They're making 3 times the money they did. That's really good. Doing this, but you work for that guy for 15 years. You have 10 years in the game, 15 years in the game. Then you started the business. So you aren't starting from zero. You're starting from 15 years of experience. So you have to remember, you have to keep this stuff in the right view. Like, what am I actually doing? What does it take? The woman who did Spanx, whatever, billionaire, right? Whatever that weird stuff is women use. But that wasn't like I came up with this idea yesterday and got it on the market today, and a year later I'm a billionaire. That was effort. It's work. It's iteration. It's fixing this, getting feedback. Okay. You see this all the time. So people need to understand, like, you have to commit to the journey. Okay. If you're going to climb Everest, you don't get to stop at base camp and say you did Mount Everest. Okay. You still got like 15,000 feet to go. Okay. There's a lot of climbing to go, but you can't say you did it because you're there. You got a long way to go. And then, you know where everyone dies on Everest?
On the
way down, right? They're all happy they made it, then they get stupid and they die. That happens on most mountain climbing. The majority is done on the way down, right? So my point, all that is just, you have to understand the journey, both the up and down, right? Understand you're going to have setbacks, and that's okay. You have to persevere through that. You have to have that grit. You said it earlier, Tom, you can't take it personal. I call it NPIB. Nothing personal in business. It's just, remember that. It's all just a product. It's a thing. I know you created it. I know you've got emotional attachment to it, but you have to be able to separate yourself from your product or service. Okay. For a couple of reasons. First thing, that's going to help you get it to market, make it better, make it good, but you're always going to have negative feedback, right? Always. As you grow, you have to separate yourself so you can hire others to do things, so you can automate, delegate, and eliminate, get those people out so they can help grow your company. Okay. So they can take the flack, right? The CEO isn't taking the flack. It's the VP or this guy or that guy or the HR person. They're the filter, right? The only stuff that gets to the guy, the owner, the CEO, or whoever it might be, is the really important stuff, right? They don't get the dailies, but someone is, in that company. You might be that person now in a company who's taking all that flack. And that might be why you want to start your own thing. Because man, I'm tired of being the garbage catcher. I got to be down here getting beat up every day from customers just because upstairs doesn't fix things, right? We get it. We've all seen it, right? You're like, why don't they just do, so we get that. But in your business, in the journey, just understand that there's always the humps and bumps. You're always going to get scraped up. You're going to get punched in the face, but you have to focus on what you're bringing to the marketplace. Why are you doing it? If you're just doing it to make money, that's going to be your hardest journey of your life. You're probably not going to make it because money it's not enough incentive. Okay. It's just not enough incentive to make something that lasts and helps you get through the suffering you're going to go through. Now, this may all seem like really negative, right? Like I'm not trying to discourage anyone from starting this. I just want them to understand, if you had the expectation, that's better, right? If you're going to run into this stuff, because they're saying it's called the gap between reality or expectation and reality. You know what that gap is? Disappointment. That's what's in that gap before you get there. You are going to be disappointed a lot, but that doesn't mean it's over. You just got to roll through it. Oh man, I thought that was going to work for sure. It didn't work. Well, fix it. Let's make it work. Right? You got to keep going. So I think that's the big takeaway.
Yeah, it is. And that's why it's not something you take lightly. And unfortunately, we're living in a world of a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. We just came up an election. There's the economy is, potentially teetering, depending on what information you look at. There's just a lot going on. So this is probably a great time for folks to reflect on their own world in terms of what's important to them, kind of even the life they want to lead, because there's so many things we cannot control about what happens there. And so this is I've encouraged a lot of folks to really take an inventory of themselves and their life and make sure that they're spending the time and effort on things that actually matter to them the most, right? And that's what, before getting into entrepreneurship and business ownership, you should reflect on that, right? Because there's a lot that goes into it that you may have to sacrifice or pain you have to go through that shouldn't be taken lightly, right? There's some serious commitment to it, right?
Yeah. I think what's important is one thing you understand is if you go into entrepreneurship, you are a business owner. And here's the good news. Like I mentioned in the beginning, you're in control. You can't lay yourself off. You could, I guess you could quit, but a business, you're at the mercy of someone else, right? Someone else is going to decide your fate if things get tight. Maybe you go, maybe you're so good they keep you, but you won't know. Entrepreneurship, you can create contingencies. Hey, I see things turning this way. I have a client as a manufacturing company and they have real data based on sales. He's like, hey, I saw a 30% dip. He's seen a 30% dip in his product. So what should he do? Just cry and sit in his office and wonder what he's going to do? No, he came up with a whole nother way to tap into an entirely new market with the same product, with different people to reach, again, how do you do it? Oh, I'll get guys who do floor coverings. He does garage cabinets. He says, I'll get the guys who do the epoxy floor coverings, make them dealers, show them how to upsell cabinets. Unbelievable. People lined up. He killed him. Okay. Put on 100 dealers in a couple of months. Now you got 100 new people who are doing how many floors a year, upselling, $4 or $5, $10, $15,000 for the cabinets for him. So that 30% dip that was coming, that was hitting, he turned it around because he could. Now, if you're someone on the floor and in order to think that way, they're just going to lay you off, right? Maybe you're working the CNC machine or something like that. Say, well, we're too slow. We're going to cut you loose. Maybe we'll call you back if things pick up, right? But as the owner, you not only get to save yourself by creating that, but you get to also the people who work for you. I always tell people when you get into it and you have employees, you're feeding the families. Do you understand? Like when you're writing that check, because I signed the front of the check and you signed the back of the check. Okay. I sit in the front. I'm feeding your family. You're working, you're earning it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is like, I have a responsibility to my 5, 10, 50, 100 people so they can make a living, so they can drive their cars, they can put their kids through schools, they can eat literally, right? So there's a lot of responsibility once you start growing as an entrepreneur or whatever your business or service is. You have to understand that. So again, I'm not trying to make this a downer. I'm just like, you should be excited about that because you don't get to do that in your W-2. Okay. Like you might be a very giving person, which is great. I give, I like that. But now you get to help them be productive and earn more money, right? You can help them be better people. You have a whole new position in life. Now you get to affect others in a positive way, with your business. So think about that. These are nice things when you're struggling in the process to think about that in the future.
No, that's really important. Yeah. And it gets back to what we've talked about, like just, you can be overused. I think a lot. It's like, but I think it's really true is your why. Like what is it you're trying to build and for what purpose? And because to your point, you're going to deal with some heartache and turbulence and such. Like, how do you get through it? Right. If it's just about money, it becomes a little easier just to maybe quit and sort of shift gears. But, if there's a bigger piece to why you're doing this and you see a kind of a bigger goal of it, it'll help you push forward. I've seen that for myself personally, because there were things I wanted to quit and it was probably easy to quit. But, if you understand kind of why you're even doing it, it makes it more difficult to kind of quit because there's a bigger purpose for it.
Yeah, we call it strategic vision. We want to be a vision-driven business. So very different than a mission statement. We want to have, the who, the how, and the why we serve our customers. Who is our customer, how we serve them, and why we serve them, right? It's not so I can make money as an owner, right? And then everyone in the company understands that too. And we show everyone how they're the hero in that customer journey. Right now you have vision. We're trying to accomplish this for not just to put A into B and give it to C. That's not our journey, right? We all have purpose. So we want everyone to work towards purpose. If you're not working towards purpose, you're going to be unfulfilled. That's why most employees don't stay places because they're getting paid, but there's no purpose. They're just A into B all day, right? But when they have purpose and they can work towards purpose, that's a difference, right? They're making a difference or they want to do something that matters, right? And it doesn't mean it has to be world changing. They have to know that they matter in the position at that job. Without them, this doesn't happen, right? That's purpose. And what we're delivering means a lot to the people we're delivering to, way beyond just, like I tell people, if you're going to buy a car and you see a car and it's $30,000, I go, you don't not buy it because if it was $30,100, that's too much. I won't buy it. That's not relevant, right? That's not, they're not buying the $30,000 car because it's worth exactly $30,000. It's worth more than that in value. They look good in it. It's clean. It's this, all the things. It actually starts every day, starts in the winter. There's a lot of value to a new car. People are paying, they'll pay the 30, but it's worth more than that to them, right? It's not only what it's worth, right? So you got to think about it that way. Like we always want to deliver more value than we're being paid for. That's part of being an entrepreneur. That should be your mindset. All the water features I've built, over 1,000 water features I've built, high-end stuff. No one ever, out of 1,000, ever said they paid too much. You know what the general response was when I got done? No matter how much I paid for it, you do not charge enough. And Tom, I charged a lot. Okay, I'm telling you, but that's the value I brought. Right. Yeah. Now, other guys will look at what I did and go, I wouldn't have done that. I mean, you're leaving money on the table. I go, no, I'm not. I'm not leaving money on the table. I don't care about you. Do this. You do that. You can't do this. You're worried about like how much a rock costs. I'm worried about the outcome. Okay.
Right.
I'm worried about that lady standing there going, this is the most credible thing. It looks like it was there before the house. That's how amazing it is, right? You look at my stuff. I'm like, that's what I want. And I charge a lot. They pay a lot. So I'm not, you're telling me like I could be making more. I go, I'm not driven by that. I was making a ton. Okay. I understand. I'm about what I do, right? That outcome of what it is. I had a guy call me, Tom, the other day. I haven't built this water feature 17 years ago. call me out of the blue. Hey, I think it needs a little tune up 17 years later. I think it's leaking a little bit, 17 years. So, and I go out, he goes, I'll pay $1,000. So come out and take a look at it. So I just go out, take a look at this. It's like a 2-hour drive because I'm moving stuff, but great guy, took it, fixed it. It took me like 30 minutes, talked to the builder next door, whatever. Just a great guy, but that's what I built, right? 17 years. Now they have a problem. Okay. That's what I built. All my people, the stuff is still there. It's like, it's part of the environment. You know what I mean? So, and they paid me a lot of money. They got incredible value. I got all this, we're doing more things. It's just an amazing thing. So to be kind of on the high note here, just understand whatever you're doing, it's that purpose. If it's a product or a service, what is the real value people are getting? Okay. If you're cutting their grass and blowing their leaves, it's fall time, whatever, like, what is that? That's so when they have friends and family over, the place looks amazing, right? There's value. It's not, well, he cuts grass for $30 a week and you cut it for $100. Like, what's the difference? Well, you do this and you do this and you do this as part of it. You're not just cutting the grass, right? It's the timing. It's just, there's a whole thing to it, right? So there's a different value for the right customer. So you understand who your customer is, how you serve them by bringing the extreme value. You never park in their driveway. It's always blown. Everything is perfect. There's not a blade of grass left anywhere, right? It's immaculate, right? You work at that level. And you have the clients that appreciate that and will pay for that, right? Same work. You just pay attention to the details, right? So I go on forever, but you get the idea.
It's the perfect thing because in even my own personal journey, with life and business and finance, it was more in the scarcity minded and thinking about what's the cost? Like, what am I paying? And I think there's still importance in that, right? We have to be mindful where we're deploying our money for our family, for our business, et cetera. But price, always run true to me. Price is what you pay, but value is what you get, right? And you got to really hyper focus, just like Richard's saying, what's the value you're bringing to people? Like your example of cutting the lawn, it allows me to spend more time with my family, right? Or allows me to go work out instead of go on the lawn. So that has value well beyond the price I pay for it, right? And so you got to think about, like, what are those things that you could do for others that contribute so much more in life other than just the actual service you provide them or product, right? There are ancillary things that, add to it that are hard to even price. Just like your example with your sculptures, like what that does for them, how they feel in their lives is hard to put a price tag on, right? To monetize, right?
Art's a great example. Okay. People spend $3 million on a painting.
You're right.
Oh, you're going, you're kidding. There's like a yellow dot on a black screen.
Right. What's those costs for that? Yeah.
Right. But I think another thing people should consider too, when they're doing this, what people really pay for, they don't necessarily pay for your product or service. They pay for the experience. Okay. There's an experience involved in any transaction, whether you're service related, you're purely transactional, there's an experience, the ease of purchase, when you contact, how easy is it to get this product, right? Take Amazon. Okay. One click buy. Okay. They don't want to make you work. Okay, they want, just click here. You're good. You already bought from us. Click here, done. You get it. They don't want you thinking about it. Right. And it's the experience that matters. I do with my construction clients. You can have you can have 5 different kitchens, beautiful finished products, right? You look at all the pictures. Okay, great. Well, let's go talk to the homeowners. Hey, I love your kitchen. Looks beautiful. Tell me about it. Well, I'd never do it again. Worst experience I ever had. These guys were dirty. They never cleaned up anything. Loud music. They're swearing all the time. It's just a horrible experience. Talk to someone else. They go, oh, he was absolutely amazing. I'll tell you, from the first call, from estimate everything, and they just walk you through the journey, the experience. Oh yeah. And it's a really nice kitchen too. Right. But what matters, what changes the game is the experience. So regardless, product or service, what is the experience someone has to go through to do business with you? Like, don't leave that out. Don't get to that later. That's how you get the 5-star reviews. Not because your product or service worked. It's how they were treated.
Yeah.
The customer experience is what it's about. If you can focus on that, it's a game changer, to use that overused cliche, but it really is. It makes a difference, and it starts to elevate your clients. You start to go higher and higher on the client scale, which means they pay more for the value you're bringing because they understand the value. They cherish the value, that you're bringing to them. Really important to understand experience.
Yeah, it's really insightful because I think in this day and age with, technology the way it is and the emergence of AI that's going to basically take over the world. And you kind of lose sight that there's a personal experience. And again, I'm not saying that is not a good thing, like some of these stuff relates to AI, but the experience that people go through, if it's painful, that's going to leave a mark, right? In a devaluing way. But if you make the experience great, it's going to last.
Yeah. Think about AI. Okay. You know what they have now? AI voice. So you're talking to AI, but why do they do that? Because they want the experience to match a human being.
Mm.
Right? So they're creating a great experience and they can do it probably a lot faster than you. Don't be afraid to embrace that technology that makes you better, more personable. That's an automation, right? It's, things we use for good or evil. Use it for good. See what's out there with this stuff. It's amazing, but just take heart like, hey, they're trying to make it more like us. Right. You know why? Because that's what people want. They want an experience. They don't, they want to, if AI can speak my language perfectly to me on a call, well, I'm good to go. If I have to call and I can't understand the person very well, okay, that's a problem, right? You hear it all the time. These telemarketers or this support groups in India somewhere, and I can't send this and the whole thing. So they have all that. So this overcomes that. It's perfect translation, it's interpretation, the whole thing. So there's a lot of great things with that. But again, it goes back to the experience. Everybody's trying to make a great experience. They're not trying to automate to eliminate experience. They're trying to automate and innovate to increase the experience.
Mm.
Right? So don't get it flipped. Don't think that's, you only you can make a good experience. You can use technology to create an amazing experience, but the experience is what matters.
Well, on that note, Richard, I would say that I this time was great. I enjoyed it. And I truly appreciate you sharing your experience as an entrepreneur, business owner, and just all around good person. I think the audience got so many great nuggets to share. And, Richard, for our audience members, where could they find more about you, your business, kind of what you're up to if they want to learn more?
Yeah, go to sharpenthespearcoaching.com. Really easy, good website. You can go on there and you can contact me via that. Send a message if you want. You can book calls. You can do all the great stuff. See everything that we do. Again, sharpenthespearcoaching.com. I do have an online startup program if you are looking to build a business. I've got a really great, real extensive online program. You'll see that out there as well. And if that's something you're looking to get into, it'll help you a lot. Really do your research if you're looking to launch a business. Talk to people, find startup groups, talk to me, talk to Tom. He's got a good experience in that and stuff too, but utilize these podcasts and things like that. And I know just help you increase your probability of success.
That's awesome, Richard. I really appreciate that. We'll definitely put that in the show notes. And for those who are listening, it is possible. It just takes some understanding why you want to do it and taking steps and actions to move forward and get closer to it. And so, Richard, I really appreciate you joining me, and thanks for your time and all your wisdom. And I look forward to building a great relationship with you. But thanks for joining me today. Thanks for joining me on this episode today. I really am grateful for you as listeners to the Perennial Pride podcast. I hope you're getting some tremendous value out of it and hopefully pushing you along your journey to financial freedom. I put this podcast together really to help you get more educated around your finances so that you feel empowered to live the life that you really want. And if you like the content that you heard today or watched, then I would encourage you to go to my website, perennialpride.com. There's tons of other content there. And you can access my book, Wealth Beyond the Numbers. You can buy it there on my website. It's a aggregation of a lot of great tips and tools I've learned to not only build my wealth in my accounts, but build wealth in my life. and abundance and joy, and something that has a lot of my experiences in the journey that I've been on personally. Hopefully that can be also of value to you as you sort of move forward. So thanks again for being a perennial Pride listener, and we'll see you on the next episode.